So today we'll be talking about this particular site called OpenAI. It's a service, okay, which we can use. We can try out. This particular service primarily focuses on AI related to natural language processing. We will not go too technical in it in today's session. Maybe if we get a chance to explore, we'll look at it in upcoming sessions. Today we'll see like what all applications where OpenAI is contributing in terms of and they have given a good amount of examples for us to see how natural language processing and OpenAI will be used in practical scenarios. So, and how much it can be helpful in some of our day-to-day tasks. So, and they have made it all open for us to use it and start applying it in starting from today itself. So I think it's from that standpoint, it covers both those aspects, how AI is helping in these cases, and also some ways to do some stuff productively. So yeah, so to start with, like it's a service that was created by many AI researchers. It's we have a detailed documentation here. They have an API, and each of the AI use case that they create, they make sure that it is created and accessible from the API, so we can make a request and access that particular service. So, and the services that they have created are something they call it as an example or application, and there were few applications that they have created for everyone to make use of. Obviously, it's a paid service. Many companies also use this service to, let's say, if you have a application where you need a chatbot, right? So in that particular company may reach out to this particular service and get a chatbot for their application. So there will be some charges that will be paid, but for personal usage, I think it's as of now, they'll give you some credits using which you can explore it. So there are, as I said, I'll not go technical in this session. I'll just show you some of the use cases that they have and how the AI helps. So these are all the several examples. I will not be covering all of them. I've picked a few important ones. We'll see how to use them, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So first, let's start with something very first on the screen. It's called Q&A. So as soon as I open it, it says that it will give me an example what this service is about. So it's basically you can ask any valid question which has a proper response to it, and you can get the response from the AI. So, and obviously, if you ask some unknown invalid questions which doesn't make sense, like let's say what is the square root of banana, we know it's something not defined question. So in that case, it doesn't respond anything. But yeah, this is how we can do. And they also give you a way to connect to this particular service via an API and use the service in any of your applications that you are building. So, and there's a environment here. They've allowed us to try out this particular service by ourselves. So we can type the questions, any questions that we are interested in, and we will see the responses. So let's say let's say just for the time being, and if I hit submit, so we get any similar responses likewise. Yeah, but it's a pretty straightforward one. And apart from that, there are a few other interesting examples. We can quickly go there in the interest of time. So one of them is a very popular thing that you might be already familiar with. It's called tweet classifier. There are two classifiers, advanced tweet and tweet classifier. So what they do basically is they say a tweet classifier. It basically extracts a sentiment from the review or the tweet that you provide. So let's say, so we can use this service. Let's say if you have reviews that are coming in on your website or on your product page, then you can use this service to understand the sentiment of that review and do any necessary analysis that needed. So we can test this. I think this one is slightly in a different context. It will give you the rating for each of the tweets. Yeah, so let's say if I have to run this thing directly. Yeah, and we can also try basically complicating the tweet itself. So people call it like a complex sentiment that they oftentimes they come across such challenging things. But yeah, we have to remove the answers first, and yeah, so oftentimes it'll give whenever it's not possible, something like that. It will also give a mixed response likewise. So this is another service that which we can use. And apart from this, there is something called as summarization. So it's called TLDR summarization. And if you would have noticed, all of these things are based on NLP itself. So natural language processing and text classifications. So what this summarization example or service does is it basically takes a piece of text, however large it may be, and summarizes it quickly in a way, 1 or 2 sentences, so that you get the entire grasp of it. So for example, there's a this particular text over there, and I hit submit. I'll get a simple way of what that particular piece is talking about. And let's say if I have another article, but you get the idea basically. So let me put one more quick example here. So I have, just a second. So I have this particular article, Hindu article, that talks about the Prime Minister's speech on Independence Day. And I can quickly copy this and get the summary as well. I paste this here, and yeah, so it basically shortens and gives the glimpse of what happened. And I've tried this out. You could feel free to try it. So currently this is abruptly stopped because of the restriction that we have on the right hand side. So we have several controls that which we can use here to modify or use this, how we use the service. So for example, here what we have is different text models or natural language processing models which they use. So currently this particular one which they are by default using is the most latest and most decent model when compared to others. But we can, if you have a particular model in mind, we can use that as well here. And here currently it's restricted to 60 characters, so that's why it's abruptly closed. So we can adjust it accordingly as the length I want, and get the results accordingly. So yeah, so this is another service which we can use. And apart from that, there are a couple of other interesting and helpful things. And actually, there is one more thing that which we might be using, is something called a spreadsheet creator. Okay, this is basically, it will, you ask, oftentimes we look for certain type of data, right? And on the internet. So but this particular service can do that particular job easy for us. So currently it's giving the example, create a spreadsheet of all the top science fiction movies and the year of release. So I can just hit submit, and it will create a sample of 5, but we can generate as many as we want based on this particular changing the parameter. And I can also change it accordingly to what I want. So let's say Indian stars, let's say, and it will automatically identify the columns that you want to ask for and try to match them with your response. So we can see all the, so currently it's only 260, so let me increase this maybe. But you get the idea. So we can also say, let's say, oftentimes you can also ask for more data, in terms of number of columns, let's say, or oftentimes it will also help you identify what data you can ask based on the question that you're posing. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's say here, and let's say number of matches, and if I hit run, what it should try to do is, okay, it's only giving me number of matches, but oftentimes what it will do is it will autofill these columns as well. So hey, if you're asking for cricketers history, it will suggest automatically that you would also maybe need how many runs they have scored, or what's the average, etc. It will automatically suggest those things, but for some reason this run it didn't happen. So if I hit run, yeah, so you can see that particular data is being populated. So it's not just, it's a really there is no much of a restriction here. You can ask basically data about much of the stuff and get the data that you need. So yeah, this is another service which they have, which we can use. And similar service that they also have is something called as parse data from unstructured data source. So this is another interesting exercise. So what they do is, let's say if you have data that is in an unstructured format, like a text piece or a JSON string or something like that, in that case, so currently we can see there is some data that is imbibed in this particular para, and what this particular service does is it will identify what the data is and they create the structured nice format. So basically here they are particularly describing what a particular fruit is, which color it is, and flavor. We can see there are these fruits which grow, which are of purple color and taste like candy. So in each sentence there is certain data like that, and we can see that data is being created here. So obviously we have control on this particular items, like what columns do we ask. So this is another thing which we can potentially use. And there are a couple of other interesting elements, like I'll not go in detail, but let's say if you are looking for a good product name, right, for your, so you can give what does your product do, and the AI will suggest basically what should you name your product or brand so that it best fits the description that you have given as for your brand. So we'll not look into that, but yeah, apart from that, there is one thing also called,
can you please try that? I think that's very interesting.
Okay. Let me pick it up. Yes. So here so we are supposed to, right, so these two are the elements at which we are supposed to give, and the product names is the tag which it will recommend. So here we can see for this one, let's say a pair of shoes that can fit any foot size. Seed words, they're adaptable, fit and omnifit. If I hit submit, yeah, it gives some recommendations based on the words that we have used in the description.
Anyone wants to try this? So, Jagdish, if you can please type in.
Yes.
So, a chatbot that can answer finance questions.
Okay, and seed words.
So you have to give seed words. Yes.
any
finance and bot, you can say.
Okay.
You can also give what is interest called in Hindi? Vyaj.
Vyaj, right.
Vyaj. Okay.
What is the spelling, Jairaj?
V Y
Okay.
double A Z.
V Y double A Z. Okay, let me remove this.
Vyaj bot, bot. Yeah, that's nice.
Let me just. Just seeing if it'll change anything. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So let me go back to the examples. Yeah. So that is about that, and there are similar examples like this particular one is a idea generator. So it's also something interesting. So let's say if you are starting on a particular task, and it will try to give you at least some basic directions. So let's say brainstorm some ideas combining VR and fitness. So it will create some. I went through these things, but yeah, they didn't seem like something irrelevant or something that automated machine does, which doesn't understand practical scenarios. These seem to be pretty valid ideas, and let's say we can also change this one, brainstorm some ideas about marketing of a new product launch. Develop and create a catchy name for the product, design a eye-catching logo, generate positive word of mouth by creating a buzz around the product launch, social media, create comprehensive marketing strategy, create excitement and anticipation. So yeah, you can see where it's going. So I'm not so sure maybe how relevant they are, but they seem to be around the ballpark. And you can basically, it's not just about the examples that we are seeing is just a drop in the ocean. You can customize these questions as per you wish and get decent responses everywhere. And there are many similar cases likewise. I'll just touch about a couple more and close the session. So one other interesting thing, especially for us as a developers, is there's something called as let's say if you want to write a SQL query, you don't have to necessarily write it in SQL. Oftentimes you can write it in plain English and use this service to get the code translated. So this is another service which thing that you can use. And apart from that, oftentimes we have to work on code that is written by someone else. So and let's say something like this. So if it's a small code, we can try to understand, but oftentimes if it is too lengthy, it will get complex and for us to understand. So we can use this service, put up the piece of code, and it will try to explain what's happening in that particular piece of code. So this can come very handy as well. And there is one more similar code related service that basically identifies errors. Let's say if you have written piece of code and you're not able to fix that error, this one, Python bug fixer. So it will try to see any errors and recommend the right solution. Oftentimes, if you don't understand how to fix that error, it will recommend that as well. And there is one more related thing, translate programming languages. So let's say you are comfortable with Python, but you're supposed to write code in Java. Then you can use this particular translate Python. You write the code in Python that you have, and you use this service to convert that particular code to another programming language. So there are many websites and services that use these days use these services in the backend to provide these services to the customers. So there is also interesting ones. I'm not going to all of these things, but yeah. So you can there have been cases where people storylines for the films and all using this particular service to write a theme for the story. So it's basically all about natural language processing and different applications of natural language processing where it can be useful and helpful. If I'll share this link if anyone wants to explore it further. So there is a lot of stuff which we have not covered yet. So for example, what these models are, what is their relevance, etc. So depending upon interest, we'll see if we can take it up in the next session. If there are any questions or if you want to try out any specific thing, feel free to let me know. So there is something called as keywords extracted. So oftentimes we come across abstracts in the signed papers and all. So this particular service will just put an extract and it will give you all the relevant keywords which we can use. So, and likewise.
So Jagdish, does this have an API?
Yeah, it all works with an API itself.
Okay. And does this allow us to leverage this model and add something more on top of it and then use that as a service?
That
like, for example,
modifications to the existing model to improve it, right?
So in a way, so for example, let us say let's take the summarizer kind of a thing, right?
Right.
Let's say we like the summarizer, but let's say we have some, let's say, scientific stuff. I'm just taking an example, or some, let's say, business stuff or whatever that is. Right. So and we need a certain modification to it. So I think let me give you a different example. So let us say the Q&A. Right. The Q&A, we like the model, but we have a bunch of text, on which we want to create the Q&A.
Okay.
Right. So in that case, we have to input our own text into it, right? Correct. And we want the answers to reflect the content in our text.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to understand what kind of flexibility do we have to use this kind.
Okay. So often to get answers to the questions that we had in place. So that is exactly what this service does. We just have to input our question or piece of text. I'm not so sure if that's what you're intending to, Chaitanya, but yeah.
No, so what this does is, so for example, let's take this, okay? So where were the 1992 Olympics held? Barcelona, Spain, right?
Correct.
You can see that question right here, the third from the bottom. So that is coming from a different text that they had input, right? So I'll give you a specific example so you understand what I mean. So for example, let's say we want to insert so we want questions answered, but from
on a specific piece of text.
On a specific piece of text. So let's say, for example,
Understood. Yeah, that is something. As of now, this particular chatbot or this particular Q&A is tweaked to answer questions in general, but not necessarily a particular custom piece of text. Let's say if we have written a book or something and we want to create Q&A on that book. So I'm yet to see how we can add it, but most likely that can be done. But I'll just have to see. I'm not at the moment sure or aware of how can it be done.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, let me stop.
This will be a really good thing for all the school students, who have to write essays, right, or answer questions, things like that. Apart from Google, this takes it one step beyond Google.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, that's what they wish. Very interesting stuff. The OpenAI has been coming up on and off. Which seems I think this will probably get better in the future. So this is open source, right? Is that correct?
It's available for us to explore, but if you want to use it for like company or production purposes, then it's a paid service.
And what is the open part of it?
I think the algorithms and all they are open at the moment. I'm not so sure how do we access to those things, but I think they must be open.
Okay, got it. Okay.